Hi boys and girls, so today you're going to experiment with some different ways of doing printmaking. You're going to see a video where I show you how to use markers as paint if you don't have regular supplies. I'm going to show you wax resist where you use oil pastel or crayon. I'm going to show you tape resist where you use tape as a way to make designs or patterns like we did the fractured painting that's in the hallway at HES. I'm going to show you found object prints, and the found objects could be even things you have with you, like your fingers and other things around. I'm going to show you how to use maybe stamps or other things you have around your house that are art supplies. And I also show you stencil. Stencil is the challenge. You have to cut out the shape in the middle of a piece of cardstock or a piece of sturdy paper. You're going to use all of this in your handy dandy art sketchbook, so you should have your sketchbook available, and watch the video and then make a list for yourself as to what you need as supplies, and you're going to fill up pages in your sketchbook testing out these different types, and fill out the Google form. It will tell you your requirements for today's lesson. So I'm going to show you different ways to make some prints. So I'm using it right in my sketchbook today. And so that it doesn't go through, you might want to fold it back so it's just a single piece of paper. And the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to make a stencil. So I'm doing mine with my name because I'm lucky I don't have any middle spaces. Like an O would have a center and then it would get cut out. But if you're okay with it being a big circle, it's fine. So here's my name. I made it into bubble letters. And then I cut it out. So I'm going to take that, and to do the printmaking, I have available on my desk right now, I have tempera cakes or I have watercolor paints. If you do not have access to paint, I will show you a couple of other ideas. And as you see, mine are not in good shape. They're pretty sad. They're old. I'm at home, and so I've got whatever I've got here that my guys didn't have used and that I have available. So what you could do is you take your stencil and then you blot the color over the letters, and I can get my brush wet and I could choose other colors. And so again, these are tempera cakes, so I have to activate them, tickle them a lot, and then blot it. That's just dabbing it down, and get my brush wet, and I'm going with green this time. Okay, and hold it down with your fingers, blot it. And so this is printmaking. So the idea with this stencil is I can lift it up and I can do it again. And I can overlap these and just keep putting them all over the page. And that's one way that you can do stencils. Now I just did my name, but you could have done a star or any other kind of shape that you wanted. The biggest challenge is that you need to cut it in the middle of the rectangle. Now, if you're having a hard time getting your scissors in there, I could have cheated and I could have done a little snip right from the side and then use tape. I would recommend that if you have to do that, you'll use cellophane tape, and you will put it back together with just a piece of cellophane tape. Now, when you do this, I want you to print your stencils a bunch of times. I want you to see you fill up a whole bunch on the page, trying it out. You can try out like what works better. Is it good if you do it all in the same color? Does it look good if you use different colors? Move your stencil around, but also remember, don't flip it over or your name or the word will be backwards. It doesn't have to be your name. It could be your initials. I'm fortunate my name is really short, and so I have 3 letters, but your initials, that's your first name, your last name, and the letter of your middle name, all 3 of those letters in order will be your initials. So that is just one way using stencil that you can do printmaking with some simple supplies. All right, let me finish up. Now, if you don't have paints available, there is another way to do this, and that would be, you still have to cut out your stencil. You all should have basic supplies of paper and scissors. So the other thing you could do is you can kind of make your own paint with markers. So if I take a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag, cellophane, probably, this was just actually, we got something in the mail today, and so I just took it out and I'm using this. So I can take my markers. They must be watercolor markers. All right, so you draw with marker on the plastic bag, okay, and they have to be washable or watercolor. You also want to think about what colors you put next to each other, because opposites on the color wheel will give you brown. You don't want brown. So I can write on here with the marker. Then I need to get it wet. Now to get it wet, I could use a spray bottle, or I could spritz it with water from my water cup. Okay, I'm going to give it a spritz. See how that got wet? Well, now I'm going to flip it over on top of my stencil, and I'm hoping that I'll get a print. So the color, see how the color is going inside? Now you can't totally control it if it goes all over the edges too, but see, I got my sook, there's my stencil, it worked that way too. If you don't have paint, that's another way that you can do it. Now I'm going to show you another form. So this time we're going to do a resist. All right, we did stencil, now we're doing resist. Now that means that you can use, again, I folded my paper over to single paper. Now you can draw things, and you're thinking, what the heck, Mrs. Sook, you're drawing with a white on white. That makes no sense. But think about it way back in kindergarten when we learned about this resist. So I could sign my name many times. You can use crayon or you can use oil pastels. All right, I'm going to sign my name again. And then I'm going to put a bunch of different things on here. Now, how you can handle this. Oh, I'm going to do some light blue. Light blue is one of my favorite colors. So again, you want to think about things that are about you. Okay, so there's my name. And now I am going to do resist on this. So if you have paintbrush and paint, you can do this easily. You take your watercolor paints or activate them and you paint right over, and anything that I did in light is going to show up. But another cool thing that you can do is when we use the markers. All right, so let me just try one more with the watercolors. So again, you see how it's not covering up the name? These are really bad watercolor paints. But again, see the color is not sticking to wherever the oil pastel is, and so the words are showing up. All right, let's see if temper cake works. I think it will, yeah. So there's the temper cake showing up down on the bottom. A large paintbrush is highly recommended when you have to paint a large space. Okay. See how the name is showing up? Now, another thing you can do is do the watercolor, I'll make your own paint idea. So again, I take markers and I draw on my plastic bag with the markers. They must be washable in order for this to work. So I use my markers on the bag, and that is putting color on the paper, on the bag, by drawing with them. Okay, you got to do it kind of quickly. You don't want to take too much time or it might start to dry, and then it might adhere to the plastic. So I'm coloring with the marker, and now I'm going to give it a spritz, whether you sprinkle water on or you give it a spritz with your spray bottle. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put it on here. And it will resist wherever I have the oil pastel or the crayon. Okay, so it's another way to get color. It's unfortunate this is a little bit wet. It's kind of hard to photograph, but it does give me some nice designs, and you want to fill the page then with that resist. And the next one I'm going to show you is tape resist. So you can take masking tape, you can use cellophane tape if you want. I prefer masking tape. Hey, if you have at your house painter's tape, that's even better. So what you do is you gently lay down the tape, and this is such an old roll, I'm going to have to fight with it, I can tell. But I will quickly show you what you're going to do. So you peel off the tape, you lay it down on your paper any way you want, making diagonal. So as you see, I taped a bunch on. One of the things you want to do is have your tape go a little bit off the paper. It'll be easier to peel it off. Also, then you don't have these raggedy edges. When you have the end and you just rip the tape with your hand, you end up with a raggedy edge. If that happens, try and cover it up with the next piece of tape going straight over it, just like that. Now, I didn't push hard on these because I don't want them to stay on here forever. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to use my paintbrush and I'm going to paint the whole page. And I have misplaced my paintbrush at the moment. There we go. Right, so I get my paintbrush wet, watercolor paints, tempera, whatever you want to use. And I'm going to paint it. Now you could just paint random, or you could paint inside the spaces. This is how we did the fractured painting that's in the hallway, in the shortcut hallway at HES. I first taped down all the sections, and students came in at field day and they all chose a section and painted it. So we're painting these sections. You can paint all of it one color. You could change colors. You could do however you want to paint this in. And then the cool thing is when we're done, I would recommend that you let the paper dry a little bit. It's very fragile when it's wet. And what you're going to do then is you're going to lift up the tape, and the spaces where the tape is will be totally white. And the space that is painted will continue to be painted. So you have all of these cool sections. Kind of looks like Mondrian. You might remember that project way back from kindergarten. And so, or no, first grade. We did that in first grade. So here we go. I painted in my sections with colors that I like. Don't want to use things you don't like because why bother, right? All right, I'm going to try and reveal it right now while it's drying, but you see, I gently peel it up, and then I have all of this showing in the spaces. So you can get a tape print, and that's your negative space. All right, you got to be gentle, and I should have waited till it dried, but I'm really in a rush. I want to show you guys how this will end up. So gently peel off the tape, and there you go. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this idea. All right, for the last one, I just want to throw out some ideas. At your house, you might be able to find stamps. I have some laying around in the basement in an old art kit. So you could use stamps. Now, if you're lucky, I don't know if I am, you might have a stamping pad. And so you just ink the stamps and you can print them. Oh, look, it works. This is like a gazillion years old. So I can just stamp it and print it. All right, there's a way to make prints. Another way is if my stamp pad didn't work, I can use my handy dandy markers. I can color it with the marker, and then I can print it that way. So I color it, and this would be a way you could control it so that the stamp isn't all one color. If I work quickly, I could color parts of it in different colors, and then I can print it. It's just as successful as using a stamp pad. And the very last thing you could do for different prints is you could use some string, some yarn, dental floss would work. All right, so I could make a design any way I want on my paper. And we go back to the creating paints choice. All right, so I take my baggie again, and I am going to draw on it with markers. And I'm going to scribble it and make sure they're washable. So I'm going to scribble color on here and try and get a bunch on here quickly. right? And you could use a shopping bag. It doesn't have to be a clear bag. A shopping bag works fine. Any kind of plastic, so Ziploc could work. If you had to, saran wrap, as I told you, this is packaging. Something came from the store yesterday and it came in a baggie, so I think it was an armband. So, okay, so I cover this with the markers, washable, make sure they're washable markers. Give it a little spritz, whether you sprinkle it with water or you use a spray bottle. Then if I flip it over on top of the string design, what's going to happen is wherever the string is not going to stay. Now I could have written my name with the string. I could have made pictures with the string, however you want to do it. Blot that down, lift up the baggie, and you see wherever the string was, it left a space. So this is just some ideas. I bet if you had time, you could look on Pinterest and find other ideas. I want you to do 3 pages of different types of prints, filling them up. Good luck. I just remembered I forgot to tell you one more. Found object printmaking. I always forget about that because we have done it for so many years. So if you are lucky enough to have a stamper pad, you just take random things, like I have this, and I can make stamps. I can print from the different objects that I have laying around, whether I take the stamp. See, I get the cap. I could use my markers again, so I could take my markers and I could draw on this. So this is just a hand lotion. All right, draw on it with the marker and I can print it. I can use whatever I've got laying around. So what if I use this marker cap, right? So I color it and I make prints from that. You can make prints, fingerprints. Your fingerprint can count. You could use fingerprints. That nothing could be more personal than that, right? So I could make fingerprints, and that's how, look, I could make this into like a cute little kind of flower or something. So I don't need high-tech equipment. I can use whatever I have as art supplies laying around. If you don't have markers and you don't have paint, you could use food coloring. I've seen people use food coloring from the kitchen cabinet. That definitely works. All of these things will work to create prints using all different things. So experiment, try it out. This is your week to try it out, because next week we're going to use it on your final project for your selfie.